Story time!
Story time! Story time!
Story time! Story time! And then
Itch!
Hello and happy Thursday to you all. Welcome to the Two Lies and One Truth Storytelling Podcast. On this podcast, we bring you 3 stories, only one of which is true, and it's up to you to decide which is which. We have a slightly different show this week due to schedules. This episode will have no music and feature 3 stories, the first of which is by myself, done in a style that I rather enjoy, but it is slow. The second story is a rather chilling one by Timmy Vilgiate, and the final story on this episode is one that will most likely be found again on a best of episode and is by Michelle Pearl. Enjoy. Do you hear it? Hold on. Hold on. Now? Do you hear it? I do. Do you? You have to, right? You're in my head too. You have to hear the applause, my friend, so... Do you? Just take a moment to listen. It's there. If only in memory, until the next night, the next show, the next stage. I live for it. The clapping, the excitement, the rush, touching people in ways that I can't by being something that I can't. It's everything. The play, the atmosphere, just everything. Oh, if you've never been to one to experience the feeling, I do so implore you to do so. I do so wish you would. People say they are deathly frightened of public speaking or getting in front of people, but that might be the thrill, you know? The thrill of death. Edging too close to an anxious breakdown, splitting in between art to produce the effect of laughing. Laughing. Do you hear it? No, they're not laughing at me, but with me. With me in the moment. There's a difference, friend. I have been laughed at, and that's not a thrill, but this laughter is. This edging of excitement towards perfection to produce the effect of clapping, of joy, of escape. Do you hear it? We all need it sometimes. Not the clapping. Well, some of us need that sometimes. But the escape. It's why we're here, right? To escape. To get away. That's why they come. That is, the audience. That's why they come every night, to escape. It's almost more socially acceptable than most other means of escape. I mean, marijuana is starting to make a comeback socially, but nowhere near the arts. Sports still have their place in the top tier of escapism, but art is present, still there. We need it. I need it. Yeah. I do. Like water to fish. I need art. I need performance, but I don't need this monotony of endless self-assurance, this never-ending questioning of where to step, this constant debacle of barely making rent, barely making enough for food, barely having enough strength to prop myself up every night to keep myself alive. Art keeps me going. My parents wanted me to be a doctor, but Huh? Well, I never knew what I wanted to do because I wanted to be everything. I wanted to ignite people's hearts with an idea like a politician. I wanted to save people like a doctor, but not actually be a doctor. I can't to blood, which is funny, but I won't go there. Don't ask why. I was I was on a roll. Where was I? Oh yeah, I wanted to be a gangster, if only for a night. I think most of us do, really, but do it without a full commitment. What? My friend, yeah, I'm talking to my friend. Do you hear me? Because I don't want to talk about the blood. I was telling you about my passion, my love. I've signed my life over to the arts. Isn't that what you're here for? To listen to me? You're just like them. Is that why they hired you? I know they are concerned for me, but they've never gone. They've never even went to a show. They've never seen me. Only seen me as they wanted to see me. They wanted me to be a doctor. Like you. Do you get that? Didn't you ever want to go into the arts, to explore yourself, your mind, your body? That's that's boring. Yeah. They are concerned for me. So, what? They can still be concerned for me. You're just like them. Just like they were. Would you go see me perform? You're just like them. Like my parents. You're just like them. You're not my friend. You're just like my parents. I don't care if it would violate any legal lines. I'm not me on the stage. I'm someone else. I'm who I need to be. If I wasn't, then it wouldn't work. The illusion. Yeah. Sometimes I'm an illusion. No, I'm just playing patient. I'm being me. The poor victim. Is that what you want to hear? Why don't you want to hear anything? You're just like them. Yeah, I know. It doesn't change anything, though. It doesn't make a difference. They are still here through people like you. You act too, you know. Like right now. No, I mean, yeah. You're just doing your job, but it's an illusion. This isn't you all the time, or you wouldn't have anybody either. You wouldn't have a relationship, friends, anything. If this was you all the time, you'd be alone. You're an illusion. I know I'm right. The world is a stage, and everybody is just unwilling actors. They all just act all the time and look down on us who take the visible stage and say, get a real job, do real things. Yeah, I know what reality is. That's what I was explaining. Do I blame who? My parents. Why would I blame them? I know. They never even went to see me. I don't know if they even wanted to. They wanted me to be a doctor. I know. Our time's almost up, you know. Can you just sign this? I need to get to rehearsal. It's just this play about a guy whose parents die. It'll bring tears. For sure. Is what how I feel. We all feel through others sometimes. I guess. No, I don't know how to. I know how to act it, but I don't know how to cry. Can you just sign this? The play starts in a week. Why? Doesn't that violate legal things? Well, make an exception for me. Thanks. I'll look for you. Help me with what? I know they are. They are dead. My parents. Can you just sign this, please? What question is that? No. This isn't real. It's an illusion. I lost what real meant a long time ago. The world is a stage. If you could show me what real means, I'd believe you, but no one has managed to do so, or even come close to convincing me. And what problem is that? Nice. Nice. The cliffhanger keeps us coming back, huh? Tell me next time. You would have made a good actor. Maybe not great, but you could have been one. Thanks. Well, until next week for the exciting conclusion of The Crazy Kid and His Therapist, when we find out what the therapist thinks my problem is. My only problem is that I love acting. I love performing. I love making others feel. Yeah. Maybe. Well, I have to get to rehearsal. Thanks, I guess. Huh. Yeah, it'll open before we meet. Will you really go? Well, here's a flyer. It's a bit crumpled, but it's a flyer. I'll look for you.
Hello, my name is Timothy Vilgiate, and I'm going to read a poem called Wannabe Prophet. Someday, all of this will burn. My last choir concert, I thought as I walked on stage about the vision, the smoke coming over the hill, the flashing of cameras, the procession of cars down the highway. Life was strange in high school for a wannabe prophet. If the end was nigh, though, everyone needed a skill to survive. And what better useful skill for a group of survivalists than prophecy? It was in 9th grade that I first became awakened to the need for prophets. John McCain had lost the election, and we were on the march towards a total collapse. So said the ex-Special Forces fellow we befriended. Preparation was in order. I began to pray for visions. At church camp, I'd learned it was possible, you just needed to ask. So I asked. And in my mind, the apparition of disaster took form first as a spark, then as a riot, until I could see the hills to the east, burning something awful. The city will burn to the ground. That's what I heard God say. And I asked him to clarify. We would need to evacuate by the road to the north. I needed to tell everyone. Well, I tried. My Spanish teacher did not believe me. My girlfriend was terrified. My pastor speculated that it was symbolic. The year before the fire that I'd imagined, I entered a theater, a choir concert. For me, it was the last one. I knew somehow I would die. There would be a fire, and this theater would burn to the ground. After that, they'd rebuild it, but it would never be the same. I drank in every second desperately. No fire came. On the day I was expecting it, I was alive, alone, smelling smoke in the air, in the parking lot, by myself entirely. No angel or heavenly voice came down to offer explanation, and in embarrassment I laughed it off, pretending that the last 3 years of prophetic angst had never happened. We all go through a prophet phase, I guess. A year and 1 month later, I was walking down the driveway towards the woods when that illusion shattered. Reeling out of the forest road by my house, red and awful, screaming with agony, a fire truck, and then another, in my neighborhood. My neighbor posted on Facebook that it was the 3rd fire that day, and folks started asking about me and my prophecy. Fires were popping up all around the city, making a circle and boxing us in. The ones at the church who remembered my prophecy asked my dad what he thought. And meanwhile, I could see the arsonist in my head. He was a distant memory from a forsaken vision, incomplete and vague. This is it, I thought. Just nothing like I expected. The city will burn to the ground. In time, the arsonist, who'd dabbled with smaller fires around the outskirts of the city, played his final piece deep in the mountains to the east, and smoke filled the air, coming over the hills. I packed my bags, uncertain whether I was a prophet after all. The city was evacuated along the road that I'd foreseen, north on Highway 67. Yet the city did not burn. One fateful night when the fire was advancing to our city, the winds changed. The fire sped away and burned through a neighborhood on the other side of the mountains. So the city had not burnt, but there was still much to rebuild. In the midst of the fire had been a car accident. 3 boys from the school died, and then later another, and then another, and another, until all of us were only ghosts in their graveyard, untouched by the fire, but burning all the same in its aftermath. I later went back to that theater, my favorite place, at one time, entirely dead compared with what I remembered. And the hallways and rooms, the branches and arteries leading into it, all lifeless. Half of my teachers no longer there. The students dispersing. Old friends dying and burning out like loose wicks of candles in ruin. All of us melted down to our last pieces by the fire. And I thought back to that concert where I walked on stage and said to myself, soon all of this will burn. And how glad I was that I had at least recognized the good days would soon be over. Drained completely of life by the coming disaster. And perhaps, in the end, I was a prophet. But at that point, I no longer wanted to be.
Lilacs by Michelle Pearl. I'm afraid of forgetting what the world was like before. It's only been 6 months, but sometimes I have to sit and think about what a sunset used to look like, or what the lilacs smelled like, or what it was like to go outside for air and be able to breathe in deep. I used to have lotion I found that smelled like roses, but it dried up after a while and it started to smell like chemicals instead of flowers, and I had to throw it out. It started slow. Most people didn't realize anything was wrong at the time. Just another flu pandemic, which we'd had before, so most people were pretty confident the flu shot from Walgreens would keep them safe. Some of the elderly victims started to come down with what looked like shingles, painful rashes that looked almost like burns. But then the rashes started to spread, and it wasn't just the elderly anymore. Joe Smith, the businessman from next door who had a strict exercise regime, used face masks, only ate vegan, ran every night, started to come down with the flu and then the rash. Then it was Sally Johnson, every middle-aged housewife who lived in yoga clothes and did Pilates. The chaos happened at the end, when there was nothing more people could do other than to hide out with their families and hope for the best. Entire countries quarantined themselves, trying to keep the disease from spreading across continents, but the damage had been done by then. It happened so fast, we never even had a name for it. We just called it the sickness. Some people called it the Red Death, but what difference did it make when everyone would be dead soon? This morning, I thought I saw the sunlight peeking in through the comforter I'd hung up over my bedroom window. There was a moment, just before I realized where I was and what had happened, that I almost thought things were back to normal. That moment between sleeping and waking when your brain reverts back to somewhere comfortable, somewhere normal, right before all the recent memories just sort of crash back in. And I thought I heard birds and cars going by outside, but I haven't heard a bird in at least 3 months. It feels like the world ground to a halt one day. Something in the air shifted, and you know those documentaries about old movies, about medieval plagues where everything's gray and dark and fog and clouds? They said the atmosphere was wrong, and it may have contributed to the mutation that caused whatever killed us, and I guess it makes sense, but it doesn't make much of a difference now. I don't know how many people are left. Sometimes I can still get a radio signal, a broadcast from somewhere nearby. Some guy who'd holed himself up in a radio station and was giving what updates he could see from his window, but it's been about 3 days since I heard from him, and I think he may be dead. But according to his last broadcast, no one heard from Ireland or Hawaii, 2 islands that had stopped all incoming and outgoing transportation, barricading themselves in before their population died out. I hope they made it, but I doubt it. I try not to think about the people I knew. Part of me is terrified I'll forget, but remembering them is worse than trying to remember the smell of roses from a bottle of lotion. Sometimes they sneak into my thoughts when I let my mind wander. I'll let myself settle into that initial comfort of the memory of their laughter or a moment in time when we were happy, before I remember the endings and I have to shake myself out of it, do something to get my mind off it. I'm the last one left of all the people I knew. Strange part is knowing there are other people who still live in this world but never seeing them. You start to feel like the last person alive. I know I'm not, because I still hear them sometimes. Gunshots, shouts, screams. There used to be a couple who lived above my apartment, but I heard the woman screaming in pain one night, the sounds breaking the heavy silence and then pacing, heavy footsteps all night before they just stopped. And then nothing. But when you don't know anyone, they don't matter as much. It sounds crass, but it's true. And maybe that's part of survival. You try to help the people closest to you, and you'd willingly sacrifice a stranger for them. The worst part is wishing you were still here. It's the most selfish thing I've ever wished for, but I'm so alone. And I know it's better you weren't here for any of this, and I don't know. Today's Sunday. I think I've been trying to mark the calendar days off, but sometimes I don't wake up during the day, or it looks like it's supposed to be night, but my watch says it's daytime. Once I run out of batteries, I'll have to try and gauge the time by what shade of gray the sky is. I'm tempted to see if I can find batteries one day when I go scavenging through the apartment building, but sometimes it's better to just grab whatever food you can and run. One day I'll have to go outside and get food. I know most of the stores nearby have been ripped apart and emptied out, but maybe I can find something. I wish I could just sit and starve to death. That'd happen naturally, but I'm too chicken shit for that. I went 3 days without eating in the beginning, and I thought I was going to die, even knowing it would have taken a lot longer to die of starvation anyway. I haven't even had the opportunity to wash myself, beyond going out onto the balcony when it pours and letting it soak me through, clothes and all. I reek, I know, but it doesn't bother me yet, so what does it matter? There's someone at the church this morning. It used to be a place where people could go to be safe in the beginning, but boundaries stop mattering when you're desperate. When someone's out there ringing the bell and it sounds like the end of the world, a heavy ring forcing its way through the thick fog. They're not chiming the hour, though. It's 2 p.m, and I've counted 10 rings. 11, 12, 13. It's rhythmic, and I'm surprised no one stopped it, but maybe everyone's as mesmerized as I am. 16, 17, 18. I stare out the window, and I don't know what I'm looking for, but maybe it's 4 men on horses, harbingers of the end of the world derived from a religion I still don't believe in. 22, 23. There are gunshots. The bells stop. My skin hurts. Everything hurts. And I miss you.
Thank you all for listening and have a wonderful week. We will bring you a more normal episode next week with stories of work. Have fun.